Good morning, everyone. I will take a quick moment to apologize to any exhibitors or volunteers who are trying to reach me right now because I am also helping with this event. But good morning. Thank you for being here for day 2. I'm Mara, and we're going to watch the video right now.
Welcome to Seattle Green Sports Alliance. At OL Reign, environmental sustainability and climate justice are core to our mission. We know that you'll be having amazing conversations.
As athletes, it's important to use our voices and platforms to address these vital issues. And there's no time to waste. Everyone can make an impact.
We are committed to addressing environmental sustainability issues and climate justice.
Join us and let's come together to address these issues now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, so now I can reference this video and say thank you to Michelle and OL Reign, for Lou and Fallon, 2 incredible athletes and passionate social and environmental justice humans that are working very closely with the organization and across Seattle to help drive action. So I am a Seattleite, and I'm very thrilled to have you here in our city, and I feel fortunate to be able to sit with 4 colleagues and friends from the Seattle sports community. I was spoiled. We all got to sit down for lunch last month and talked about the importance of collaboration and how Seattle is unique in the sense that we are a collaborative bunch, and we use this opportunity to idea share, to fail forward together, and through our conversation at lunch, we were open, and that's another important way to drive sustainable issues forward. With this conversation, I'm gonna kind of set the tone and say thank you, and we'll kind of wing it from here. I've got questions, but I want to continue our conversational style, and let's just dive into the collaborative impact. Some of the first opportunities that I saw our community come together was in 2020. The Seattle Sports Commission brought together representatives from the executive level of all of our professional sports franchises, universities, and local government so we could get on a bi-weekly call to navigate the pandemic together. And that actually turned into a weekly call. Somehow, with everybody's busy schedule, the teams actually asked if we could meet more frequently so we could build relationships. And now that we've navigated outside of the pandemic, those calls continue and are a way for us to idea share, to connect with each other, to network. And we've also supported each other. You'll see OL Reign players supporting the Seawolves as they're getting ready to go into the Western Conference Finals. And you'll see the Kraken are supported by Seahawks players. Marshawn Lynch will jump in and do a video. We've got people raising the flags at the Space Needle. All of our pro teams kind of come together and support each other where it really matters, from getting the fans into the stadiums and to also pushing forward initiatives. So I'm going to start with Christy here to help us set the tone from a venue perspective and a venue that's more seasoned. Where are you seeing Seattle come together in a collaborative spirit for sustainable issues, and what makes Seattle so unique in this sense?
So I would say, as you said, the sports teams, and not just within sustainability, but everywhere, have set that tone of collaboration. Within sustainability, at this table, you have 2 front office and 2 operators, and yet we can sit here and share, and we went to lunch, and I think we were there an hour and a half, and we probably could have kept going, but we all had places to be, because the ideas that can come from sitting at a table and sharing where you are and being transparent and vulnerable to your weaknesses is key to the sustainability growth within this area. And I would say this, they only have 5 chairs up here, but really these conversations include the Sounders, the Mariners, UW Athletics, as we look at sports sustainability and how we can continue to push forward.
And you have been working to put together a group of folks. Can you share kind of how you've started to bring people to the table from those different organizations, what that sustainability coalition is starting to look like, and what your hopes are for that?
So probably in the midst of COVID, I realized, and I come from not a sustainability background, I come from a sports background, so I needed help to know and to navigate. And so I reached out to those that I knew through GSA and said, this is our area, can we all get together and talk? And it started in Zoom calls. About 2 months ago, we had our first in-person get together. And really it is just getting around a table and saying, here's where we're at, this is what we're struggling with, here's our successes, how can we move forward with those. And my goal is that we would have all of the university's athletic departments, we would have all of the teams around that table so that we can move sports sustainability and sustainability forward in our area.
Yeah, and I want to jump into the operational side of things just a little bit. So from the facilities perspective, how do you work with the teams that call Lumen Field home? So the Seahawks, the Sounders, the OL Reign.
You know, it's unique to each team, and a lot of times it's how can we work together to share the story of what both buildings are doing. The Sounders actually got to play in our facility on Earth Day, and so we did some collaboration and some videos to highlight the work that we're doing in the facility so that the fans could see and understand. Because I believe that one of our greatest successes is if our fans can take what we're doing in our building and take it into our areas and our communities. Because our building has almost 2 million that come through it. Each one of them making a small difference is bigger than any big project we can do in the building.
And Michelle, from the OL Reign perspective, being the newest tenant, how are you seeing the interaction between the stadium from the other teams? You just had a doubleheader with the Sounders a few weeks ago, which was a huge undertaking, a full day of soccer, food trucks, music. How did you have conversations to make sure your values were represented within the stadium for that day and as you're making this your home?
Yeah, I think that what we have found is just for OL Reign, this has been a part of our culture since we started. The National Women's Soccer League is now in its 11th season, and we've been so lucky to have the OGs, as we call them, original members, who are great advocates for this work and across many different initiatives. So we have Lou Barnes, who is our captain, along with Megan Rapinoe and Jess Fishlock, who have really set the tone of what it means to lead through a player-centered platform. And so as we continue to grow, as we move to Lumen, that has stayed with us and has been a part of our holistic approach. So, you know, we're still relatively small. We have a small front office, and we're coming into Lumen last year and really taking it to the next level. But within our club, I think we really have reflected what you were just talking about in terms of like, what can you do individually to really have impact? And honestly, that started with our captain, Lou Barnes. She has already really led on this front. She works closely with organizations like Players for the Planet, First Water. So she's really driving this forward, and COVID was actually a really kind of turning point for the club, just seeing how much single-use plastic was being used, just the practices in the locker room, how we were moving that through the type of chemicals used in retail. So she really led the effort with our first team in terms of measuring what our carbon footprint was in the locker room and within the club. And I think that, you know, thinking about it in a holistic way of like, okay, now we're working with Lumen, who has some of the same goals. We can bring a different piece to that in terms of the power of a player platform and how they lead both on the pitch and off the pitch in our communities, in the clubhouse, and how we keep moving it forward. They really hold us accountable. And then as we have conversations with Lumen and with our partners, we're all really trying to bring the best of what we have to offer within our ecosystem to really raise the bar on all fronts. That has impact on the work we do. It inspires us, as well as the fans and the impact we have and what we can communicate and help carry forward together.
Yeah, and with Climate Pledge Arena, you were essentially building from scratch. Did you connect with Lumen? Did you connect with T-Mobile Park? How were you working or learning from the other teams and venues? And you had a pretty interesting intern connection with the OL Reign as well as you were building. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, I got the opportunity to come to Seattle and work for this team in this arena. And not only was I new to Seattle, fresh out of Dallas, but I was new to sports and live entertainment in general. First time working for a team, first time working with an arena. So I knew that I was going to need a lot of help. So the first thing I did when I got started here in Seattle was my boss, Rob Johnson, said, hey, you should probably meet with Christy Briggs. You should probably go over to T-Mobile. You should probably talk to the Huskies Huskies over at UW and just start learning how do you even operate a building? How does a team operate? And really just start to learn what the backbone of that meant. And similar to Christy, I had a sustainability background, but what I didn't have was Christy's background, right? I didn't have an operator's background. I didn't have a venue background. So the conversations with Christy from the very beginning surrounding waste diversion, corporate partnerships, how to run a tight venue, then the way you operate it was really key for me to bring back to our operations and dissect everything that we did with the learnings I found from T-Mobile, from Christy, from Lumen Field, from OL Reign, and be able to apply that and maybe add a little bit more TLC to it with a little bit of a Kraken flair. So, so that was really fun for me, but I quickly realized that we will never have it all covered, right? We're always going to need help. I'm always going to need to collaborate, whether that is with people in the sports industry or even outside with new, fresh perspectives to flip the way that we've normally done things or how we've always done things to change for the better and create more of a meaningful, intentional impact. And with the rain, what a cool experience to have Lou Barnes as an intern. What? When does that get to happen? So Lou Barnes was our intern for a while, but she never returned her I-9. So if you could give me her I-9 next time you run into Lou, that would be awesome.
I'm on it.
But what was great about my experience with Lou is, again, she had a perspective I didn't have, and I love that. I love when I don't know something because there are other people that know, then I don't have to recreate the wheel. So talking with Lou, I got an athlete's perspective. I would have never been in the OL Reign locker room, right? When would that have ever happened? But I got to experience and have these conversations with Lou about what she was tackling, what were her obstacles, because that's probably going to look very similar in the Kraken locker room, right? So being able to interact with this city whose ethos is really sustainability, right? And really watching our teams and our venues lean into sustainability, environmental justice has just been amazing.
I also want to add to that. I know that we talked about at lunch about how Lou really shared with you what she was doing. Lou created, this is clearly like a Lou love hour, but it's powerful when the players are the ones driving it forward and we can work in partnership across the city. But she created what were called MAD travel kits, Make a Difference. And the kits were full of supplies and products that the players use and are essential to their daily use, all that were eco-friendly and from companies who had track records with regards to sustainability. I mean, that's just like a singular effort, but what that does, the impact that has on our partners as well as players that now are coming in, Fallon, Alana Cook, who just left for the national team. This is something that is embedded in what we do, and now we are really growing to the point after 10 years where we're building our front office team to really have that continual impact with the work we're already doing, but really where do we build upon that? And that comes from simple, everyday acts that are accessible. It's not the big stuff.
And Jessica, the Major League Rugby is still relatively in its infancy, so you're kind of building from the ground up in a different way with a different set of resources. But something that's really special about rugby culture is the community component to it. How are you leaning into your community, letting your players as well kind of show their values externally and giving them tools, whether it's Eric, who is working to help with the homeless crisis here, or working with Orca Conservancy or other partners. Can you share a little bit about that community?
Yeah, we are now in our 6th season as founding members of Major League Rugby that exists in 12 markets across the U.S. And we are at Starfire Stadium. We sell out to a crowd of 3,000 very excited fans. And we're really at a crossroads because we really need to scale our sport, and we need to provide more visibility to the sport of rugby and grow it at the youth level. And I think that, with Memorial Stadium coming on board, with Oakview Group as at the leadership helm, we have an opportunity to really, set our own course and chart our own path when it comes to what rugby looks like in the U.S. We have one of the most consistent fan bases in the country, And the league really does look to Seattle to be a leader in how we grow the sport. And, you know, a really unique aspect of our sport is that our players don't wear their names on the jerseys. So that's a barrier for community and connection. We also have a lot of international players, and so they don't always reside here year-round. But what we found is that we have players that really want to be here. You mentioned Eric. Eric is a local legend, and he has started Seattle Compassion Services, which outreaches the homeless community. And what I see is our players want to connect and root themselves in our community more than they ever have. And I think that's unique to our franchise, and that's something that we can bring to the table when we have discussions at the league level on how to bring humanity to our sport and how to tell the stories of our players that align with our fans' values, because it really, that's how we get that fan engagement year over year and into year 7 and 8 and 9. We have the Rugby World Cup coming to the U.S. in 2031 and the Women's World Cup in 2033. That only gives us 8 years to build our community. And it might seem like a lot of time, but it really isn't. And so we are working to support our players in their efforts to connect with the community and to build that engagement with our fans.
Yeah, so the community component, engaging your players, letting your players have their voice, and then the cross-collaboration between your players from team to team, having interns, having people do PSAs together. Pretty much all of the athletes from all of the teams here have been collaborated on PSAs for Pride Month to support local BIPOC businesses. But I want to turn this dial over to maybe the sponsorship side of things and how a collaboration amongst all of the professional teams in considering partnerships could scale your impact even further. So B, can you kind of provide a little bit of context and your hopes for what sponsorships could look like in a collaborative environment across the teams?
Yeah, I never thought that I would be such best friends with our corporate partnerships team, but it seems I meet with them just as much as housekeeping and operations. And what I think is special about how we have started from scratch as the Seattle Kraken and Climate Pledge Arena with partnerships, and how it really holistically could pin the needle for us all, is that corporate partners want to be a part of things at the arena to amplify not only them, but us, right? But what if we filled it with a sustainability twist? So from the very get-go, we as the Kraken were finding corporate partners that aligned with our missions and our goals, like Pepsi, Starbucks, Alaska Airlines, you name it. But what if we, as a sports team and an industry, had the power to not only utilize partnerships to help amplify projects in our arenas and venues, but what if we also challenge these partners to change upstream operations on their own, right? And together, you know, a lot of us have the very similar corporate partners, right? The Pepsis of the world, Alaska Airlines, Boeing, Delta, you name it. But what if we all came together on a topic, right? Maybe it's environmental justice, maybe it's waste reduction, maybe it's reuse in the building, but maybe even thinking more holistically into how things are packaged, right? What if we all came together and we said, we as venues really want to lessen our environmental footprint on the ban of single-use plastic front, right? What if we came to these companies all together and we said, this is what we want and here's the demand. Now let's see what we can all do together to shift the needle, not only inside our venues, but more holistically in the broader markets that we're all in. And I think that's a really big untapped opportunity that we all have that take these discussions.
Christy, I think you have something to add to that too, yeah?
I was just going to say, go B. You said it all. And locally, we do have a lot of shared corporate partners. And so to be able to, like we said, lean into that and make change, and even just within our community, to holistically look at our community and say, how can we make an impact? We're doing this, our partners are doing this. How do we share that story to, again, change behavior and change our fans and our community so that it's not just in each of our buildings, it's not just in the built environment, it's everywhere we go within our communities.
And it's bringing everyone, lifting everyone up together. So teams that have different resources available, if we can all kind of come together in that collaborative partnership space, then it gives opportunity to some of the younger leagues to join in and make an impact as well. Jessica, did you have something to add?
Yeah, and I would just say that there's also opportunity with emerging sports, with smaller sports who don't always have the tradition and legacy of generations of fans that have come to expect to consume their sport a certain way. And so even looking to those peripheral sports to be able to support and bolster your efforts and your initiatives, I think it could really make that impact because, you know, as we're moving forward, we're looking for new ways to align our brands with those values. So.
Yeah, and I think I'd love to add to that, you know, we're seeing that as well as a younger league. And I think the interesting thing that's happening with us, and I'm sure you're all seeing it, is the growth of women's sports, both from just the engagement as it continues to get, you know, more coverage. And we're starting to see players really build upon their platforms. And of course, the players have been leaders in our league, so we're really working closely with them. But I think there is something different happening in terms of the rules were written differently when we started, and so we developed different fan bases in much more fluid and intuitive needs or means. And so I think we're bringing that into these conversations and really thinking about not necessarily how we repeat what others have done, but how we're an additive and how we're bringing something different. We have a little bit, we can be nimble, we can be innovative, and this comes to our corporate partners in terms of the expectation of how we will lead and how we will think about in collaboration with our stakeholders. We've been holding meetings over the past year with a collective of stakeholders, fans, players, partners, sports partners, to really discuss like how does mission, vision, values, and certainly as a pillar of sustainability really have real impact? How do we measure that? And how do we all have visible skin in the game that's accessible and everyone at any level can take part?
Just at a small level, the video that the OL Reign put together for us, that beach cleanup footage, was actually in collaboration with the OL Reign and the Seattle Sports Commission last year when an international sailing race was coming into town. There were over 100 people from all over the globe that were here, and Seattle had one of the yachts in the sailing race, and we had a theme of the oceans are our future, and we focused on ocean health. And so we knew that the OL Reign, they had players, in particular Fallon, who's very passionate about ocean health, and we extended the invitation to have them join us. And it was a fantastic day of all of us kind of just getting boots on the ground and bringing 3 organizations together for a shared mission. And we accomplished a great small task, getting just one area of our waterfront cleaned up, but it makes a difference.
And working with community partners, which I think is the other aspect, and really keeping that, you know, thinking nationally, but also, again, where's the local impact? So Puget Soundkeeper is a partner I know many of us work with and will continue to work with, just one of many that I think. They're doing the work. They already have the tools. We have the platforms to help pass it on. So we don't need to tell them how to do it. We need to be in partnership and really move this work forward.
Yeah, we show up. Oh, Christy, did you have anything you wanted to add? Great. I'm going to transition us to maybe a more zoomed-in focus on some real-world application. We have a few major sporting events coming to Seattle in the next week. So get ready for that if anybody gets to stay. Christy, you have been involved with the MLB All-Star Week that is going to be starting on July 7th. They're coming into town in the next few days, but how have you been working with T-Mobile Park? How is Lumen Field impacted? Because a lot of the events will be intentionally set at Lumen Field in the surrounding area. How are you collaborating with the Mariners, with T-Mobile Park, cross-connecting on your different infrastructure from a sustainability perspective, from waste diversion? Tell us a little bit about that process.
So we've met both with the Mariners and, on a major scale, but then on the microscopic look at sustainability with their team and what they are going to be doing, what the MLB would like to see from us, and really kind of getting that idea of what does it look like to have a collective sustainability story across many venues. Because there's a lot of things that are going to go on in the city over the next couple weeks, and yes, all of our buildings are impacted, and to your point, we do things just a little different, and how do we make those, how do we not change them and reinvent the wheel, but how do we mesh them together by talking through communication and just getting that information clear?
Yeah, and we'll have NHL Winter Classic coming, and then, of course, the mention of FIFA World Cup in 2026. I'm going to end us on a quick one-liner from everybody, but if you are curious about any of the other operations or the major sporting events that are coming into Seattle and how our teams are working together to make those the most sustainable and welcoming events, come and catch everyone after this session. But I want to leave you all with a quick question. What's one message you'd like to leave this audience with today on the importance of regional collaboration to scale impact?
I would just say collaboration is key. It's why we're here. It's how we are going to make a difference. And just like we may have different league initiatives and different things going on, and those collaborations are important, what is going on in your community and how that affects the sporting teams and the fans is key. And so go back to your cities, find out, reach out to our GSA staff, find out who in your city is working on sustainability within the sports sector, and start that conversation.
Michelle?
I think for us, we don't have all the answers, and that's okay. This is why we have this incredible group to lean on and to also use the resources we have to bring to the table, which for us, it's our players, and it's our club and our fans who expect us to move this work forward, but we can't do it alone.
I'd say mine would be the time to act was yesterday, right? The next 10 years are really pivotal for us, and we have such a platform to use to move that needle both upstream and downstream. And when anyone says that it's impossible or that's the way we've always done it, now we can point to everyone in this room and say, well, they've done it, they've done it, they've done it, we can do it too. So I would just say the time to act is now, but it was also yesterday.
And I would say that mentorship is the key to progress. And as a small organization, you might have experienced in your city where there's a certain siloing within the sports community or a territorialness about it. But even in the past 5 years, I've just noticed that we have de-siloed our community in such a rich way. And even if you are a small organization, don't be afraid to ask for that mentorship. It is something that has really united us in having in these conversations. So I would just don't be afraid to ask for help.
Thank you, friends. I'll see you at lunch maybe next month. And thank you for spending time with us today. Enjoy the rest of the summit.
All right. Let's give them a round of applause. That was a powerhouse panel of all women. So thank you all. Thank you all so much.